Hey there. Not sure if you were expecting to see me at all. I know it's been 2 weeks since I've gotten back to Texas, and behind me you can see right about there, you can see in the background where my thumb was one of the ripening tomatoes. I've got many tomatoes ripening here that I planted shortly after the big snow and that big freeze that some of us were concerned with enough to reach out to their friends in Texas and say, hey, I'm sorry you guys are going through those things. I know that some of you were concerned with that stuff too, but you deal with this winter type of wintry conditions more often than I do. Anyway, don't really want to talk about the weather today. I want to talk about this video. This video is private, except for that the people with the link can view this. So it's only for you who are seeing this video. And it's basically going to have another version of it published on a public site that has nothing to do with any of the personal content that you're about to see. The other videos, if you'd like to see them, you can just backtrack and watch some of my prior videos. And starting probably at the beginning of this soon to be past week is when I started uploading the videos talking about how thankful I was for the opportunity to be out in Montana to tend to the pets and the plants and the property as a favor, as a courtesy. I don't know what you want to call it, but basically it was for a friend, and I'd like to consider us friends. And at the same time, the way that people have followed through, I don't really know who's a friend anymore. I just know that I keep doing what I'm supposed to do, and people will either recognize that or they won't. Until then, I've left plenty of backup copies of what I'm posting in a variety of places so that they'll tell the story whether or not I'll ever be able to fully tell the story to those who it matters to. With all that being said, I hope you're well. I hope you're well on the path to recovery, and I hope that everyone is marked safe and happy and exceptionally healthy. If we don't have our wealth, what do we have, right? Health is wealth. So you can hear all the birds here where I'm at. We nurture these things that are around us, and I think that individually that's the case. The only one who doesn't is the dog who lives here, who terrorizes the squirrels and the birds and everything else. So we could go on and on about a lot of things, but let's just get to the show. The show is going to show you how what I was left with started and how I left what I was entrusted to for someone else to start with. So again, there's going to be a public version of this video and a private version. I hope that you watch the other videos that I posted this week so that you can understand what I'm saying. If you care. If you don't care for it, doesn't matter. Point is, I like a certain level of follow through, and I've heard that showing your work is really the only way to prove the results. So I'm going to show the work again and again and again until someone gets it and understands that I do good work. And that's about all I can say. So have a great day. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for following through, for anyone who was meaning to follow through and didn't. And got quite a variety of amazing birds here. It's really beautiful. I don't know what you're seeing where you're at. I know at the location that I was entrusted to, I put out bird seed and a variety of things that brought ravens and a few other animals around. I tried to make it pretty clear what was respectful in terms of what animals should go where at any given time. Unfortunately, I think I had a mouse die in the house that I was watching just before I left. There were a lot of things. Have you ever worked with someone who was so angry at you that everything you did you felt like you were going to do wrong? And so kind of that's the energy that went into some of the outcome. In a way, that's how I feel in terms of how the refrigerator's glass panel broke. In a way, that's how I feel about how the toilet seat that I replaced was just the wrong color, although the one that was on there before also wasn't the right color. In a way, that's how I feel with regard to quite a lot of things that I wasn't able to talk to the homeowner about because of whatever reasons were keeping us from having those conversations. But since conversation can be had whether or not someone wants to engage in it, I'm not trying to force you. I'm giving you the option to watch this and the prior videos that also outline the same exact things but in public. And I wish you well. I hope you're having a great day. I can tell you for a fact that I'll always be a lot more aware of who it is that I entrust my friendship to. Although I will extend it just as quickly to anyone who would like to be friends with me. And that goes across the relationship spectrum. You know, even if I were to engage in any kind of a consensual relationship with anybody, I would absolutely want for them to be friends with me for the rest of our lifetime. You know, there's nothing more gratifying than being able to smile with someone and talk about the stories that we've gone through together. And that's the thing a lot of people forget about. So instead of forgetting about anything, I'm going to go ahead and lay it out here for us to remember so that we don't make the same mistakes again. Have a great day. Thanks. The story always starts at Big Bend National Park for me, and right before I headed off to Montana, I'd received my Jeep Badge of Honor from Black Gap Road, which is in Big Bend National Park. And that's what you're seeing right now. Basically, it's the documentation and the badge that I received for completing one of the challenging tours or one of the challenging trails that Jeep has identified as their Badge of Honor trail system. So Black Gap in Big Bend National Park is a fantastic road. It's absolutely worth checking out, but it's only a fraction of what you can experience traveling to some place like Montana. I covered an incredible distance. I actually slept for just a few moments. I was transporting a tomato plant, which you see on the right, and then I got to the point where I got to care for a house that had 3 house cats and 3 fish. You'll see various arrays of things that are in the place, including a crib that's jam-packed with a lot of stuff. There was stuff everywhere in the house when I got there, which is not wrong. And although the homeowner had asked me to leave things as they were, it was very difficult because everything that I would open, including the microwave or the stove or the refrigerator, or even just to grab a seat, or you see a pile of dirt on the left. It's already on the last screen. There's so many things going on. It's impossible to talk about this fast enough to say what happened, except for I was given an opportunity to house sit for a friend who also had given me the opportunity to talk with them about whether or not they wanted to go to treatment for some circumstance or another. And that circumstance was something they kept telling me that they wanted to address so that we could probably carry on a better relationship with one another. I had to keep reinforcing that this change had nothing to do with me, and if they wanted to change, they needed to change for themselves. Look at the counters here. Now look at the counters. The floors are the same. Look at the floor. And look at the counter. The toaster. So many things in this situation were wrong from the get-go that had been unresolved for quite some time. And as a friend who was brought, look at the fish tank. It was so dirty. The water was so dirty. I thought there were only 2 fish in there that were alive still. It wasn't until I started really draining that filth to get to this point where you saw the clean water that I found the 3rd fish. And the 3rd fish, all 3 fish survived, by the way. No fish were harmed in the making of this video. There were quite a few things that were harmed, like the piece of luggage that was broken. It was already harmed, and I took it to the dump station asked the lady who told me that she had been warned about me. I asked the lady, hey, if I have a broken piece of luggage, what do I do with it? She said, no, you just throw it, in the same place that all the other garbage goes. And I went ahead and did that because I was planning to replace the luggage situation and also a couple of other items that were broken in the house. I was planning to replace those in a way that would absolutely benefit the homeowner. I'm really just avoiding saying names in an audio format so I don't have to go back and scrub things. You saw a light fixture. I took a picture of a light fixture to take the information with me so I could buy the right light bulbs. There were many light bulbs that weren't working in the house. When I left the house, there were only 2 light bulbs that weren't. Look at the microwave, the inside of the microwave. I couldn't microwave any food until after I cleaned it. The microwave, I mean. There were just things I couldn't do, So I apologize in advance and after the fact for anyone whose feelings got hurt while I was doing things to make a situation livable for me in a place where I had to stay for basically a month. And I hope that you see that what I was doing was primarily to ensure that I would be able to actually live without taking on some kind of any kind of weird disease from the living situation. There were a lot of times where I was cleaning out clutter and found nothing but maybe cat turds and mouse droppings and it was kind of like the fish tank when I first got there. Everything was so dirty that it was hard to even come up for oxygen because I was already overwhelmed with everything that was going on around me. I'm not someone who gets overwhelmed too easily, but the situation was overwhelming. If you didn't see that at the beginning of the video, if you're ashamed to see it, or if you don't know if you should be seeing it, maybe you really should be watching it a lot more closely. Keep looking at all the details and you'll notice how it gets refined. Every single time I pass through these areas, things get more and more refined. This was the first day I was able to make something without feeling like I would make myself sick when I made some simple eggs, which there were eggs that were in the fridge that were expired for months, and then there were eggs that were still good for about a few weeks. Look at the cat replicating what I'm doing. It's pretty cool. If I made a claw, this cat would stick its claws out. It was pretty interesting. I was experimenting with a portrait shot here. And now you'll see one of the anomalies. There was an incident with the dishwasher, which already had a loose handle, and the handle came off while I was using it. I tried to fix that. I could have fixed it a lot better, but I ran out of time. I had essentially 5 weeks to do 3. There's a lot of mouse droppings on just one level of all the levels of the pantry that had mouse droppings. This is just one example of at the bottom of every box, something I could find. This is when I organized the pantry. Look at that. I brushed the cats regularly. They loved it. I can't tell you, I did laundry for 3 weeks straight. I'm sure the electric bill is going to be interesting because of all the laundry I did. I tried to use the fireplace as much as possible, the wood burning stove. Although I did use the heaters in some cases just to add some spot heat because I wasn't really given the opportunity to discuss with the homeowner who lived in this region how I could obtain the amount of firewood that I would need to heat the place for as long as I needed to. So I had to get creative. There are a lot of things that I haven't discussed with the homeowner or anyone else that I was unable to discuss with anyone else, even though I was isolated in places that had blizzard-like conditions, where I had to find a way to get through, even during the power outages where I had to call and report things without being the actual homeowner and without... Look at this. I took a bath. It was when I got most everything at a point where I felt like I could finally relax. And here's an interesting point. It was April 16th when I took this picture. I already had plugged in my return route because it was already kind of apparent that I was being pushed out by the homeowner who suddenly didn't want to see me at all for some reason. I had a pressing feeling that they didn't want to talk with me because they had something they couldn't share with me. And that was apparent because they wouldn't answer simple questions like, hey, where did you get this amazing wind chime? And hey, are these other cats related to this cat? Simple questions. And hey, I got these things at this store that's near your location. And that's the only thing they would respond to. Is when they responded, they didn't answer any of my questions that were related to actually maintaining the home. And they followed up saying, those things that you bought, which you're about to see in a few seconds here, you could have got them for 30% less at this other store. Another store in some other place where I wasn't even at. So it's like nothing that I did was right. It was nothing but arguments, it was nuts. But I continued to persevere and to streamline things and to enjoy the beautiful mountain scenery and all the things that kind of thing brings around, like the wildlife and the solitude and the peace and quiet, all those things that someone who deserves to live in a place like this would want to enjoy. I even walked around the property and picked up trash that was on the property. I can't tell you how many Mylar balloons are out there. It's possible some of my cousins have released some of those from here in Texas. They do that to celebrate, which is something I get kind of upset about. I got really good at peeling oranges in one shot without having multiple pieces of peel. I didn't even tell the homeowner I went and got pizza one day because I thought they would get somehow sarcastic with what I ate and say that it was, a really crappy decision or whatever. I tried everything there that day. It was great. Everything that was pizza and cheese related. Look at the floors. You don't see any of the spots. It took hours to sit down and hit each tile to get the wax or pudding or glue or whatever it was that was dropped on the floor. And then constantly I was assaulted with more snowstorms, which was great because I still had to stay in the place and clean up the things I was finding, which were in increasing amounts of pockets of places that I only searched because I got more and more suspicious based on some of the non-feedback that I got. The bottom shelf of the fridge, whatever I cleaned off of there smelled so horrible. Look at this shelf with all the colors. That's the shelf that blew up. Look at that snow that's coming off of the roof. That was pretty cool. And look how clean the fridge is now. I relaxed every sundown. I sent pictures to the people who are having this communication. I put together things in anticipation of the return of the occupants of the house who I hoped I would get to spend some time with. And the way I was repaid was basically to be told to vacate the house and not to get a clear answer either as to when. And each day I would ask and try to suggest, hey, this was a funny picture. I liked it. I would say, hey, I've got things that'll look how tall the tomato plant is getting. When there was snow outside on the seats, I would just play standing up on the balcony. Here's another picture for your enjoyment. At some point, you'll be able to say you knew me before I was famous. The flowers were all blooming when I was there on all the plants. I went around watering them. There are a lot of half-drunk bottles of water. I had to make sure they were not vodka. But look at the toilet seat. It was cracked and it's slightly different color than before. And there's other colors on there you'll notice too. But I had to take the water that was in the half empty plastic bottles because the homeowner had a thing about not using those waters if they were already touched because they didn't know what germs they had on it. The plants don't care. So I basically even went through the car and found probably a half dozen mostly filled. Look how tall that tomato plant is getting just over that short amount of time. And it started to flower a couple of days before I left. So I watered the plants with premium water. The fish were all healthy. The shoes were put in order. The TV was put into the place. I wanted to replace this or make a cover for that was custom. That's my cooler, my favorite cooler. I wanted to make a cover for the light switch covers that didn't have light switch cover. Look at a creative thing I did with this plant. This is what you would see without the plant there. So I left the plant there, and also that little music system was just incomplete parts that were all around the house that I put together. out of the parts that the homeowner had so they can enjoy their music again. I did everything I could, really. The books that are straightened out fit in the places they were at. I put together a lot of things in order to resolve problems that had existed around the house that were told to me that were problems. One of the problems I was told about was the shimmy of the car that was just suddenly recognized when I was driving the homeowner to the airport to drop them off for this thing that they chose to do to better their life, not to better my life. And for whatever reason, they asked me to take the car to get repaired as well, which I didn't have time for, so I didn't do it. My own car had a shimmy that I just did yesterday that I just got addressed when I returned, and then finally got settled in a couple of weeks later. But in the meantime, while I was at this location, I was cleaning it up to the point where, and repairing it, you can see the dishwasher had the handle back in its place again, and repairing it to the place where the homeowner and the pets, as you can see. Oh, speaking of pets, check out this picture frame. It was a replacement for a broken picture frame that the homeowner had already bought. Look at those pictures. Those are something I printed out and put in there. And I just kind of walked around taking a few random pictures of certain things that you may or may not recognize as inspiration points or creativity topics or whatever. It was really cool. I found a bag of cereal that I had brought with me and I forgot. And so at the end, I got to have some amazing cereal with some soy milk that was supposed to be used by 2017. Soy milk apparently lasts a long time. So does coconut water. I thought this was interesting. These caps are a choking hazard for kids. They were all over the house, along with fishing hooks, pills, and all kinds of things mixed in with the toys. I can't say enough about how I would not have sided with my friend if I were ever questioned as to the safety of the child that might have been getting raised in this location. And so that's why I mentioned what I did to this person, and I cleaned up the place in a way. I even put the monitor back where it went and the laptop holder back where it went so that the homeowner could enjoy this space just by plugging in and getting to work, you know. I did so many things that were related to so many topics that I can't hardly specify whether it was good or bad unless I look at the work. And when I look at the work, I know what I did was good. I know it was right. I know it was right for the homeowner. I know it was right for the child. I know it was right for the pets. I know it was right for me. And I know it was right, you know. I enjoyed putting things where they belonged. I enjoyed working with the lives that were there. I cleaned there was so much dust on all these adapters and outlets. I didn't clean this place as much as I could have if I had a little bit more time. And I did everything I could, like I say, to put certain things in order in a way that made sense. This is the way that it was before. And when I say this is the way, I mean really look at how it was before with the mouse droppings. Really look at what's at the bottom of every box. Can you even tell what was in these boxes? And really look at how I even vacuumed as far down the stairs as I could and continued to have fun with the tools that I brought to have fun, which were basically a guitar and a sense of wonder. This room was pretty interesting in that I can't tell you when it was vacuumed last, but the staples and little nails and errant discarded junk that was in the rug came up pretty easily as soon as I took all the debris off the floor and consolidated everything. Look, there I am peeling off an orange peel once again in one shot. How cool. And there's the cat. All the cats loved exploring these new areas to jump on. I've got a story about that banner that's hanging down. I'd love to tell someday, but you know, that's another thing for another day, I guess. And as I look around at what was left, there's my stuff, my pills, my folic acid was all I had left. at the end of this trip. I put everything back in the fridge in a way that looked beautiful. The tomato plant that I took was flowering, which means it'll fruit at some point in the not too distant future if it's taken care of. And some of the bottles of interesting things that I found were mixed arrays of just additional rubbish. And I say that in a careful, constructive, meaningful way, saying that I don't dig rubbish. I don't think anyone does. And I know we can tell the difference between trash and not trash. And so if anyone's going to trash my reputation or my name, I look at the elk. That was one of many herds that I drove through in the middle of the night. I made it back in one night. Look, I had to hit 385, US 385. Those are my tomatoes at home that I planted, that I started this segment with. And just like I started the segment with something that I'm ending it with, I started it talking about the Jeep program. On my route home, you'll probably have noticed there were 2 stops. Those were for 2 additional Jeep trails, so I completed 3 Jeep trails. This is the first badge that I've got so far in return. So there you have it. It's just a quick capture of the work that I did. If anyone thinks I did any work while I was taking care of the location I was entrusted to. And I wanted to say, not only did I do that work with compassion and with passion, I take pride in the work that I complete. You know, if I could have had more time to complete the entirety of that project, I would have. If I could have had more time to discuss some of the topics that I did with the homeowner and to live a significant portion of time helping to do what we know is the right thing, I would have. I just wasn't invited to continue to do anything. In fact, I was told at some point after just a few amount of pictures of the work that I completed, I was told over and over, don't clean anything else, don't do any. Like I said, there's no way I could get around it because it was disgusting. You know, to try and microwave something in a thing that has stalactites of God only knows what it was is not sanitary. And there were a lot of things that weren't sanitary about the conditions that were there, which is why I, again, would say there are just certain things that I wouldn't vouch for the homeowner on. And I don't mean that as a detriment. I mean that as an observation. Anyone can take an observation and either learn from it or consider that they were being judged and they can be angry about it. If you're incensed by anything I'm saying and you're not even the person who created this mess, you might be an enabler. I could be wrong. I've done strange things throughout my time, including going 13 days without any kind of food. You can look it up on this same channel. The whole story is there. The whole story from the very beginning of any point in time which you think that this relationship might have ever been a relationship is all there. It's just a matter of whether or not someone is hearing what is happening between the lines, so to speak, you know? And I really don't know what comes next, except for that it's not cost effective for me to travel from one side of the nation to the other extreme. And so that's the only reason money was ever talked about in any context whatsoever, just for everyone's awareness. You know, your work that was there, I would have done that for free. I would have done that for the rest of my life. And as far as the effort that it took, yeah, it took a lot of effort, you know, but it's easy to maintain what's in order once it's in order. The part that's not easy to address is when things are out of order in such a way that it's being compounded. So for an example, if I already have an excess of things in my home, and if they are accumulating in ways that are preventing me from using spaces in the home, I would not go out of my way to order more things. And yet, while I was at this location, I received another order of things to add to the home. When it's not things that needed to be added to the home so much as it was the actual pride, compassion, love. I don't know what you would call it. I would call it a whole bunch of different things, but mostly love. When you add love to the home, flowers bloom, cats purr, the fish swim happier, people smile at one another, do favors, make coffee, wake up people different ways. We don't wake up and immediately try to vomit out the worst of the day onto someone. We basically try to enjoy time with one another. That's peace, that's love, that's harmony, that's all that. And like I say, without knowing the whole story across the board, anyone can form any kind of decision, especially if it's a one-sided type story. So I wanted to voice a little bit of my input because it's been 2 Saturdays now, I guess, since I've been back. I really have to look at the calendar. Time flies in a weird way when you stay up for 30 hours driving. I just happened to move my mouse and it went back to the picture where it shows my 2 stops before I reach my destination in San Antonio. That guitar, by the way, in the back here is from Montana, from a place in Butte, Montana. It's one that I prize, that I absolutely love. And anyway, music. Music makes the world something. I don't want to say anything more except for goodbye. Thank you for your attention to these things that I'm bringing, these details that I'm bringing to light, and peace. That's really all there is to it. If you want to deal with something peacefully and find a way to work through it, that's fine. If you want to carry a chip on your shoulder or a void in your heart or anger or whatever you think is going to get you through the day, I can tell you, I've been there. I've done that. I've tried it, and I've tried a lot of things. And so for anyone to tell me that I don't know what it takes to get through a struggle like this, or for anyone to tell me that I don't have what it takes to get through a struggle like what has been encountered by the homeowner, or maybe possibly all of us, you might want to do a little more research. Like I say, I've done a complete water fast for 13 days. I'm able to maintain my concentration. I might not say things the same way that anyone else will. I might not do things the same way that anyone else will, but isn't that the story of everyone? Everyone talks different, lives different, makes different choices. But whether we hate someone or love someone should be pretty clear in our actions. And I've tried everything I can to say what I've said without harming anyone or belittling anyone or challenging someone any further, except for that every day should be a challenge to make it a little more better than the last day, especially if it wasn't such a great past year or past 3 years or past 8 years or past 44 years. Celebrate on your birthday, especially. Make it so that you enjoy some place with someone you love or alone. But whatever the case, I'll tell you, if I had the option to go someplace with someone who made things absolutely difficult for me and who were going to talk to other people instead of me, why would I go with that person? I would just go alone. So that's why I've kind of continued to go alone for the majority of the rest of the time frame that has been kind of not even discussed. But at the same time, I've got friends, and friends treat friends like friends. And it doesn't matter what stage of the journey you're in. If you're a friend with someone, you're going to be concerned with what they're doing, with how their life is going. And I've got a great 5-year-old friend who absolutely loved hearing my music, which was it's a confidence builder. And even though his mom didn't really enjoy my music, that's okay with me because she didn't have any songs of her own. So until she can do better than me, I've got to say I think I did better at songwriting and maybe a number of other things than she. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. What I mean is, if you're going to criticize someone, don't forget to do your own work and show your work, and tell the full story, so that other people can follow through based on accurate information. Inaccurate information is probably one of the bigger ways that our governments have helped us to continue the misconception that all chemicals are okay for us in moderation. However, there is no delineation between the chemicals that we're taking in our produce and foods, and especially when it's combined with prescriptions, and especially when those are combined with over-the-counters, and especially when those are combined with whatever other chemicals that you decide to add to those equations. For me, remove all sources of potential problems. Take it down to the foundation if you have to, but don't forget, if you're happy doing what you're doing, it doesn't really matter what kind of conditions you're in. You can succeed and persevere through everything and find a way to make it make sense, for not just for you, but for other people. And when you do it for someone else, it's always going to be something that resonates within you as well. And it's going to pay you handsomely, and it's going to make you more handsome, because when you smile, you can't help but being handsome and attractive, and that's the kind of thing that brings a positive attitude to more than one person. So I hope I'm bringing you something of value. I know that in the past, I've known things of value, but mostly it's things that I have to go and had to get myself. My own past didn't include the levels of compensation for the work that I've done that would allow for me to have lived the lifestyle that some people have. And I'm so grateful for being able to have seen a glimpse of the lifestyle of living in a place like the wilds of Montana. It's amazing to know that there are people who have traveled the world and enjoyed it with whoever they cared to. It's amazing to know that there are lives like that out there in the world to aspire towards. And sometimes until you know, you don't know. And until you know what I'm all about, well, knowing is half the battle. Go Joe. Peace, love, and all of that new age, hippie, religious type stuff. None of it's daunting. None of it's anger inducing. It's just truth. Truth is truth. The truth can hurt. The truth can also set us free. So here's to a truthful Mother's Day weekend and an exceptional continued new year. Happy early or belated birthday to whoever's listening to this. May you celebrate it fully. And that's about it. That's all I have to say. Again, there's some prior videos. Enjoy those if you want to, but don't be surprised if you see me on some other news feed at some point doing something else amazing with some other amazing people. And also don't be surprised if I simply don't care to respond anymore to people who have not responded to me. Peace.